Well, grace and peace. Welcome to Find the Intersection. My name is Paul Dezay. Today we're talking about Psalm 80, the first two verses, and then also 8 to 19. Psalm 80. Now, to really get into this passage, we have to understand yesterday's passage of Isaiah 5. So Isaiah 5 is about a vineyard. The vineyard is God's people. God does everything to make the vineyard fruitful, flourish, thrive. He protects it, guides it, and nourishes God's people so they could be the people that God created them to be a people that loves one another and loves Him. But instead of that, the people choose to go their own route. They're selfish, and Isaiah says that instead of justice, instead of righteousness, there's bloodshed and violence and screaming. And so that's yesterday's passage, Isaiah. So today's passage is a different perspective on the same metaphor. So the first thing is, in Psalm 80, there's the metaphor of the vineyard. So God's people see themselves as a vineyard. They see themselves as something that God has planted to produce fruit. But instead of seeing themselves as complicit in their destruction, they blame God. So the second thing I say, first thing is that there's a vineyard. They are the vineyard. They are called to produce fruit. And the second thing is they say, well, God, why then have you broken down its walls? So why? So that all who pass along will pluck its fruit. The boar from the forest ravages it, and all that move in the field feed on it. So the psalmist says, God, why did you do this? Isaiah says that God's done everything he possibly can to make these people flourish, but they've chosen to go their own way. The psalmist says, hey, God, why did you do this to us? So it's two perspectives on the same story, right? Isaiah is from the perspective of God. Psalm is from the perspective of the people. So the interesting thing, and Stacy pointed this out to me this morning as we talked about this, the people say, in let me find the verse number 17. But let your hand be upon the one at your right hand, the one in whom you made strong for yourself. Then we will never turn back from you. Give us life, and we will call upon your name. So the people say, hey, God, if you do this for us, if you protect us again, we'll turn back to you. And so it's almost like conditional repentance. God, if you do this for me, then I'll do this for you. And so they see themselves not as they see themselves as the victim of God's wrath instead of seeing themselves as the instigator of their own destruction, which is so interesting. I find these two passages from Isaiah 5 and Psalm 80 just so interesting, God's perspective and our perspective. Now, here's the thing. How many times do I blame God for things that I myself cause? So if I do something and then say, God, why did you cause this to happen? Instead of blaming myself and seeing that I'm complicit in this, I blame God for it. And then I see that's what's going on in Psalm 80. So there's some reflection here that needs to take place as we look at who we are as a people. God has done all of this stuff to plant us as a vineyard to produce fruit of love, right? And this love spreads and multiplies, right? It produces good wine for God, right? But instead of doing that, we go our own way. And at times I know I go on my way. And I blame God for the stuff that I get myself into. So anyway, God, if you do this for me, then I'll turn back to you. But hey, anyway, that's my perspective on Psalm 80. What did you get? If you'd share your thoughts in the comments. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about the intersections for the week. And don't forget, tomorrow night, if you're in Muncie, Dr. Thomas Ord is going to be speaking at 6 o'clock at Southside, talking about his book, God Can't, and why evil and things like that happen. I encourage you to check it out. The tickets are $25 at the door. So we're really excited about hosting Dr. Ord to talk about this incredibly important subject of finding hope in the midst of tragedy. So anyway, invite friends, neighbors to join us for that special event. Hey, I'll see you all tomorrow. Grace and peace, everyone.